A new video, and today I want to discuss, for the most part, on the competitive scene in Yu-Gi-Oh! And how I think it does have a place in Yu-Gi-Oh! And what players can do overall to kind of just, understand the line between competitive decks and casual players, or competitive players and casual players. Now, I also want to preface, this is kind of a response to GlasgowYGO's video, for the most part. It's just primarily focusing on the competitive scene and the casual scene as a whole, because I believe that they're two entirely different beasts to tackle. So let's just jump right into it. So the first major point that I want to talk about is that the reason probably why the majority of the player base doesn't want to discuss competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Online is because, not because there's no place for it, it's because there are a ton of secrets on in the game. You have to know which techs are what, you have to know your own specific builds, and you have to know, you have to be above the learning curve. That's basically what I'm saying. You can't just be learning how to play Metaphos or ABC or Zodiac Beast now. You should have known that before, I believe, when they were just announced, or when they were just coming out, and the rulings were still fresh and everybody was still talking about them. I believe that deck building is one of the most important aspects of the game. However, nobody's going to give you the secrets to what makes a good Metaphos deck, to what makes a good Zodiac Beast deck, to what makes a good ABC deck. You're gonna have to find that stuff out on your own, and that generally sucks. But that's how this game works. You can't just go based on some guy's deck profile that they won 2 years ago. You have to go on based on your own instincts. You can't go playing Blackwings with a build that is, quite frankly, a few formats old. But you can try to innovate the deck and make it competitively viable, or at least competitively as possible. Now there is a difference where a deck can be kind of competitive, but it can't. But the deck can be competitive enough to where it can stand up to the meta at a local level, but at a tournament level, they're not. It's going to be much difficult for you to, just to make a deck that can stand up to three of the best decks, or even just the best deck, in some cases. When you choose to play something like Agents or Harpies or Blackwings or something that isn't of the tier capacity, you're already fighting this uphill battle, because now you're putting yourself at a disadvantage where if you're playing like Metaphos or something, you could probably glide around and still learn the deck and still do decently well, and probably do better than you would expect if you were to play something else. So, and also, the majority of the time when you're playing this deck, the more skillful matchups that you're going to be facing are the mirror matches. When you're sitting down across your opponent, and they're playing basically the same deck as you, you kind of already know what's in their deck to a degree. You don't know every little tech that they probably put in the deck, but you generally understand what they're playing. If you're playing ABC and you're playing against your mirror match, you're obviously knowing that your opponent is playing 3 Terraforming, 3 Union Hanger, 3 ABC Union Monsters. They're playing 3 Buster Dragons. They might be. This is something that you can invert on your own. They might be playing Winter Cherries. They might be playing something else. They might be playing Twin Twisters in their build. They might be playing something that is totally disadvantageous in their playstyle, but it's just a tech card that they decided to run with to see how it does in an actual regional or YCS setting. Some people were obviously really hyped when people were obviously really wanting to talk about Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit. People were playing that in side decks because it stopped Union Hanger to a degree, and it kept it from being off the field. But that's neither here nor there. But like, if you're playing a deck, like if you're facing if you're playing a Blackwing deck and you're facing an ABC deck, you're probably already at a disadvantage because they're playing the best deck already. So that by itself should inherently signal to you that you're already in a losing position as soon as you draw your first 5 cards. It's just inherent nature. When you're facing a not good deck against a deck that is proven time and time again statistically to be the best deck, you're already climbing a mountain that you might not be able to get over. And now if you do, that's great. We recently had last weekend we had an agent player who in Texas who got 14th place, and he was like I said, he was playing agents, but he was already facing that uphill battle, and he already crafted his deck to a perfection to where if he were to take anything out of that deck, probably he would have lost his matches. If he didn't play his side deck just so, he would have lost almost all of those matches but he was a skilled enough player to understand that when he makes a deck like this, he's already facing an uphill battle, and he already knows what the other decks consist of. And that's the basic thing. You have to know what the decks consist of rather than what the decks ultimately do. If you already know, you can learn how the deck functions all you want, but if you don't know what's actually in the deck and how they play the deck and how they stop it, you're gonna be at a loss almost instantly. Also, I want to point out that basically, I also believe that somewhere down the road, I believe that every player should give the competitive side at least a decent chance. Give it one or two regionals, and if it's not for you, then by all means stick with your casual decks. There's nothing wrong with playing a casual deck once you're done. But I do believe that try it. Just give it a chance. So you might like it, you might hate it, and this is me coming from a person who only switched to being a better, more competitive player last year. Literally a few years ago, literally if you were to ask me 2-3 years ago what the best deck was, I would have literally said straight to your face, Yusenju is the best deck. I literally played that deck for 8 straight months because I believe it had a landslide of a matchup against Necros, and I was so dumb for thinking that. But you will have to come to these realizations in time, and I also don't think that new players should immediately jump into these things right off the bat. I don't think you should pick up Metaphors right off the bat. I don't think you should pick up ABCs right off the bat. I think you should find your niche first, and then work your way up to ladder yourself up to a point to where, okay, I'm comfortable enough to switch my playstyle, my casual playstyle to this playstyle, and understand where a competitive player is seeing, and see what they're doing, and see how they're playing the game, and see how they're focusing their game. And it goes far beyond by saying, oh, I'm just going to make the switch and the plunge to play a competitive deck. You have to understand the rulings first. You have to understand the mechanics of the game first. You have to understand what plays of the deck that you're trying to build first. You have to understand the basic concept of the deck. You have to understand how to build the deck. First and foremost, building the deck is the building block to any card game in the history of card games, minus Solitaire, but that doesn't count because no one's sitting across from you during that. You're actually playing a game. So yes, and the second part I want to talk about is the competitive players, and I believe this is kind of a neutral point, but I believe that both sides have these distasteful people or distasteful group of people where if you're playing a casual deck, you're a scrub, or if you're playing a competitive deck, you're a meta pleb, or you're a sheep, or you're this and that. I don't think there should be any of that, honestly. I think people should be allowed to play what they want, but if they want to play and if they want to play competitively, they should also encourage other people to play competitively, or they should encourage people to want to get to that level, or to at least play at a level that makes them at least viable and a decent opponent. You can't. I also think that it's also the casual players say, okay, we could do that, we could play at your level, but you also have to understand that playing the top decks isn't exactly what makes it fun for us. And that's the thing that people need to understand. Now, on to the competitive side, because I believe that it's mostly because of the competitive nature and the game itself, really, that I think that it has a whole lot to do with why the game is not seen as a competitive game to most people. So let's break it down for a minute. All right. So when you go to a YCS, there is nothing at the end of that road other than a prize card and a mat. And in some cases, your Nats trip is paid for. That's good, but you don't get anything at that road either. I don't think. There's no cash incentive. Now, the cash incentive doesn't necessarily make the game inherently bad to be a competitive player in, but it means that there's nothing really willing for the casual player to jump over to that side for. If they're not going to get anything out of it that's worth the while, other than just a card and a mat that 30 or so people will have, then it's really not conducive to their logic to say, well, I mean, if I'm not going to earn anything out of it, then what's the point? ARG is pretty intelligent, and even though I've been outspoken about ARG's methods in the past, before I started this channel, I always believe that having cash prizes will give casual players an incentive to at least want to show up, at least want to try it out to see what it's like. And that's not that, and not having cash prizes is not inherently a bad thing. But it does make the competitive side a little bit weaker because there's no incentive for jumping over to that side, other than just wanting to win. And that's mainly the general argument that I see from most of these people, that you do it because you want to win. You don't play casually because you play casually because you want to lose. I don't understand why people don't understand that. People want to win, but they want to win on their own terms. Secondly, I also believe that they want to win, but they also don't want to adhere to this competitive playstyle when in all actuality yields zero benefit for them. It yields nothing for them to do any of this stuff. So it really doesn't make any sense for them to pick up Metaphos or pick up ABCs or pick up Zodiacs, because for what? What are they doing? What are they gaining for that? I think that mainly because if they tried it, they might enjoy it, sure, but majority of the time, if they're going to look at the competitive scene and they're going to be like, there's nothing there for me. It's just full of obnoxious people who think that I'm a scrub because I still want to play Glad Beasts. I mean, I could make the plunge and play Metaphos online and see if it's good enough, or if I play ABC or the best decks online to see what it's like. But if I have to act like this to make it that way, then I don't want to be a part of that. And it's kind of an attitude thing. It's kind of an attitude thing on both sides, realistically. So I feel like that if both sides of the fence be like, okay, maybe instead of dividing ourselves among these two categories of casual and competitive player, we might actually be a cohesive community that actually has a decent game to back it. And maybe Konami will take us a bit more seriously when we stop wanting cards like Gustos Freeze to be banned, or we want something like, well, why do these scrubs get the best cards, or why do reprints happen? You know, I for one don't necessarily agree with either side. I like playing the competitive game because I do like the winning aspect of the game, but I tend not to stray away from the casual competitive side. I like being the casual competitive. I like playing the crazy kooky decks, but I also do bring it down to this. I bring it down to Metaphos. I bring it down to ABCs sometimes because I want to be a competitive player, and I also want to be intelligent about the game. I want to be knowledgeable of the plays and the concepts and the decks and all that stuff that makes the deck or makes the game worthwhile. But I also want to be a part of the community that generally draws people in and is ultimately accepting of this. Is accepting of you playing Yasendus or Blackwings or something else. But I also want there to be a community that is accepting of playing Metaphos or ABC, not because it's the best deck, but because maybe it just appeals to me. I like playing Metaphos because it appeals to me. I like the playstyle. I like the mechanics that are involved into it. I like the fusion mechanic a lot. I also like the Xyz mechanic a lot. I like playing cards like Pot of Desires because I think Pot of Desires is a ridiculously risky card, and it has its rewards. But I also like playing cards like I like playing Fluffles, actually, and I built a Fluffles deck with the new factory repair cycle plant. That's pretty insane. So just I just want to bring this down and say, kind of just, you know, give the competitive scene a chance. If you're a casual player, give it just a little bit of a time. Give it a little bit of your time. See what it's like. But also, if you're a competitive player, don't disparage anybody by saying that they're a meta scrub or they're not a meta scrub. They're a bad player because they want to play their Blackwing deck in 2017. Just be accepting of all different varieties of decks, and maybe then we'll have a more competitive game state that not only is accepting towards people who are of a competitive standard or casual standard, but we'll also have a more competitive game state in the long run, because we'll have more people who are willing to take that plunge and are willing to be accepted by those people. So anyway, guys, tell me what you guys think about my points in the comment section down below. I will see you guys in the next video. I also have some links that I want to point to that I want to direct your attention to. If you are a casual player that wants to talk about or wants to see what the casual site is like, I'm going to reference a channel known as the RJB0 in the description bar. Please do check him out. He kind of brings it into a mindset where you can casual players and competitive players alike can agree with. So, but anyway, guys, I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. I will see you in the next video. This has been Team Minimum Post, and I will be signing out. Later, guys.